Now, this particular week, this workshop is free. Um, so I know every once in a while I announce my paid services, but for the most part, you'll probably notice that there's tons of content out here for free on YouTube, tons of content within my school community, like a free crash course. There's all kinds of things I offer for free, because I want to reach everybody around the world that wants to learn Power Apps. Not everybody can afford it, so I want to have something for everybody. And every once in a while, with my Friday workshops, like today, I just offer them freely available. And normally they are a part of a $25 membership. So you can access all uh, the previous workshops. And if you're sort of wondering, like, well, tell me more about these workshops. Like, what type of things have you covered in these workshops? And so here within school, I've broken it down by year. And today we're going to be talking about SharePoint manipulation. I thought that was a short way of saying creating sites, lists, fields, listing them off, doing all kinds of operations on SharePoint from our Power Apps applications with the help of Power Automate. And that was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I am going to make sure I got my phone on Do Not Disturb. There we go. It seems like whenever I'm about to go live or about to start a workshop or something, everybody starts calling me and emailing me and texting me and needs something right then, which definitely did happen
Yeah.
today. So I want to thank you guys for bearing with me. And yeah, so this afternoon we will take a break uh, in about 2 hours. Okay, so I'm going to try to go. Let me see if I have options to go. Yeah, I can only go live on one thing. So I'm live on YouTube, which is my favorite platform anyway. So very good. Um, and I trust that you guys do see my screen here.
Yeah, it
And
shows.
yeah, so if you guys are in on the tech workshop community, I'm going to share this link with you guys here in chat. Now, everybody should be able to use the chat within this um, Zoom webinar. Just want to make sure that that is set up for you guys. And we do have a Q&A panel, so you can ask questions there. I see Mark. Hello, Mark. And there's a good showing of show out of people here. And I typically won't read out people's last names. So if there's two of the same people, you'll just have to assume that I'm talking to you. Um, I see Nick. Nick, I miss you, man. So Nick was an accelerator student for a whole year, and yeah, I miss you, man. And then we say Cody. Cody says, "Hey, Darren, will there be any discussion on Dataverse today?" Um, no, no, we're gonna be really focusing on SharePoint. This whole thing is all about SharePoint. However, in the boot camp, we're going to devote a whole day on Dataverse, model-driven development, and it's all going to be about Dataverse. So hopefully you guys have heard about the boot camp. I'm running it's like a 66 or 67% discount until tomorrow at midnight. You can almost get a 5-day course and almost all my stuff for under $500, which is a little crazy. Some people tell me you're charging way too little, but um, this is the first time we're doing something like this, a boot camp. So um, if you think it's a good price, definitely get it now because I'm more than likely not going to offer it at that price in the future. But if you can't make it, uh, the boot camp, which starts on the 23rd of this month, it goes to the 27th. If you can't attend, I've had a lot of people say, "Oh man, it's like I'm in the middle of something or I can't attend." Well, number one, they're going to be recorded, and then you'll get a voucher for doing one in the future. So you can't lose. So yeah, Cody says no worries. SharePoint is a great connector. Yeah, it sort of is from the standpoint of if you don't have that premium licensing, SharePoint is about as good as it gets, right? And if you have that premium license, definitely go for Dataverse. There's a lot of upsides to Dataverse. Um, but today's all about SharePoint. So what are we going to do today? So if you're here within um, the school community, I do use Notion to take notes, paste in code, so you guys can follow along. Now, Elvis has graciously helped me out here and created some PDFs here. So as we're creating Power Automate flows, if we go over something a little too fast, we'll be stepping through these, but these are great resources, and I'm going to have them create a PDF for every flow that we create. So I'm going to open up one here and show you, what type of stuff we have. So we've got, okay, this is looking good. Yeah, so starting from creating a flow, it shows you what triggers, what connectors, what actions, all that type of stuff at every step of the way. So Elvis, this looks really good. I like this. Especially I'm a big PowerApps guy, and I've done a lot of flows before, but there are a lot of times I get a little stuck on some things and I have to look things up. A step-by-step guide like this is awesome. And guys, if you're thinking about checking out these workshops, it's only $25 a month. If you wanted to sign up and then cancel, you can still use it for a whole month. And, maybe in a month you'll watch all 27 of these workshops. You can cancel at any time. I would rather you stay on as a monthly member. I'm all about relationships and seeing people over the long term. But hey, if you just want to get in here and watch some videos and in a month be done, that's completely fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings there. But I wanted to, because I do get a lot of questions about all the topics that we've had workshops on. So you see the last one, APIs and custom connectors. We did solutions and pipelines, so deployment. Disconnected applications, creating components, checklist inspection apps. So you can read it here. Org chart. Um, got all kinds of good stuff. Delegation. A lot of people struggle with delegation. Well, we had a whole workshop on that. And it was really good. Um, Another good one was the collections, freelancing, UI, UX, complex patching. That was great. Um, Elvis, I don't think we've had a bad workshop yet. Would you say?
No, not at all.
Hey. And Austin says, this is awesome. Thanks, Austin. I love your enthusiasm. Wayne says, Darren, these resources are amazing and so helpful. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks for the feedback, guys. Listen, my ears are always open to constructive feedback. I do have a heart for the community, and I think that's the reason why Microsoft recognized me as an MVP is because they saw that I was helping you guys out, and that's what I want to do. I want to help you guys out. I'm really passionate about software development, using Power Apps to do so. I think it's a great tool, and dare I say, fun. When you're at a party, like, what do you do? Well, I'm a software engineer. Oh, okay. No, I think this is fun and interesting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, um, I'm going to bring over an outline that I have that I've started. And so the objectives that we are going to cover today, what can you expect to have done by the end of this workshop? I'm going to bring this over. Okay. So we are going to create a user interface or UI. And this is probably going to be for admin or managers, people in IT. I'm going to create a UI that allows users to do what? Create SharePoint sites, and it is fast. If you go over to SharePoint. You're like, okay, create a SharePoint site. And it takes you one screen. You got to fill this out and this out and this out. Then you hit the button and then it thinks about it. And then it goes there. Then you got to pick from one of the. No, this is like really fast and you're gonna see it. Um, so let's talk about okay, sites. We've got lists and we have fields. Now, if you guys have ideas, these workshops are very interactive. Okay. So if you have any input, I mean, we're going to stay on topic of the SharePoint manipulation, but if you have something that's related to this, so we're going to be listing sites. So I want to put that down. We can list all sites in a tenant. What is a tenant? A Microsoft tenant is, what would you call that, Elvis? It's a relationship with Microsoft. Is that what you would call it?
Uh, Not really. We can say tenant is like your environment where you have all your stuffs for creating your apps and all that.
Yeah. So if you use M365, which used to be called Office 365,
Yeah.
you have an account, an organizational account with Microsoft. Um, I guess you could call that a tenant. Now, the word tenant, if you think about it, is you're renting something, and you're renting something from Microsoft. Other a lot of their cloud services. So you could think of it that way. And then an organization could have multiple tenants, like the organization that I run, my corporation. We have one tenant that we run the whole organization business through, and then we have one for our accelerator students. So if you sign up for my mentoring and apprenticeship program, um, you'll get an account in that tenant, and you'll get your own environment. You get your own Dataverse database and your own SharePoint sites and all this stuff. And I turn all the options on. IT departments typically, their job is to say no, not yet or not now. Those are the three things that they tell everybody. And sometimes even people inside of IT. I tell you, as a developer, a database developer who has decades of experience working with like SQL Server, sort of wrestling a DBA just to get a little bit of access in a dev environment. Sometimes they don't like to give out access, Well, in my tenant for my accelerator students, I turn everything on. And then, of course, I got to monitor it just in case one of them is a hacker or something. But I think I got Elvis. I think Elvis, you got a honeypot out there to catch all the hackers. So we catch all of them that we know about. That's the thing about hackers. You got to know that you're being hacked, right? They're not necessarily going
Yeah,
to tell you.
exactly.
Uh, yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, Nick says, "Hi, y'all." That's exactly how he says it. I miss you, Nick, from the UK. Hi, everyone from Ireland. Very cool. Let's see here. And I'm also going to try to keep an eye on the YouTube chat as well. Now, guys, over in YouTube, keep in mind that you can join the Zoom workshop if you want to be a part of it in here. And just in case somebody, I don't know, they have an error, we're trying to walk through something, you need to share your screen, we could do that here. We haven't really had to do that very much during these workshops, but if you guys wanted to join the Zoom webinar, let us know. We could put the link over there in the YouTube chat. If you don't mind, Elvis, would you be able to put that link over there, the registration link for today's workshop, just so that they have it if they want to? And I do see, let's see here. Do you see Michelle? Hey, thanks for being a supporter of the channel with the membership. Um, it might be Mitchell or Michelle. Hi, everyone. Jose from New Jersey. Jose, I think I was talking to you earlier today. RPA consultant from Porto. Now, is that Puerto Rico? My wife is from Puerto Rico. And then we have Ashwin says, hi, Darren, any AI capabilities in this? I wasn't planning on that, but who knows? If there's some type of application, I definitely use AI. So I have a subscription with OpenAI, Perplexity, and a few others. But yeah, love leveraging the power of AI whenever I can. All right. Okay, I do see. Oh, there's Savage. Let's bring Savage on as well. Savage is my model-driven expert, and also he's fully Power Platform certified. I think he's a Power Platform architect, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. There we go. Here's Savages. Very nice. Okay, so we're going to be able to list all the SharePoint sites in our tenant. We're going to be able to create sites for lists. We're going to do the same thing. List, create. And what I'd also like to do, what if we want, let's say we've got, I don't know, 200 SharePoint sites out there, and most of them have been abandoned, which I'm sure if you're a SharePoint administrator, you might want that. I'm sort of hoping, Elvis, is that, have you looked into that at all about creating a flow that will delete a site, a list, and or a field?
That's pretty possible. We can go over that later on.
Okay. So I'm hoping to do that for all three of these. And then we got fields, list, create, and delete. Now, if we cover just that, not only with the Power Automate flows, but create like a little interface within PowerApps that executes those flows. If that's all that we get done today, is everybody excited and still enthusiastic? Or is there anything in here that you guys would like to be challenged on that would be relevant to this? I'd love to hear you in the chat. Yeah, let us know as we go along here. Now, the prerequisites for this, as you can imagine, you're going to need to have all the permissions in order to do things like creating sites and lists and so forth. Yeah, very good. Thanks for that, Elvis. I'm going to paste that over here in YouTube. So they have, okay, very good. So yeah, you're definitely going to need the SharePoint permissions. And what I would suggest, something I think would be a great idea. Guys, do you know that you could go out and create your own tenant for as little as $6 or $7 a month? So you could have a business basic account. You'd have access to SharePoint. You'd have your own tenant, a OneDrive with I think is either 1 or 2 terabytes worth of space. There's all kinds of stuff and you could, create a little domain for as little as $10 or whatever you find it on GoDaddy or some other website, domain registrar. It's relatively cheap, and you could just cancel your subscription if it was just you're just trying out. But it seems that Microsoft is turning off a lot of the things you can do with trials, and they have dev accounts. They seem to be they've made a lot of changes recently that restrict that. So, I mean, for $7 to get your own tenant, I think that's awesome. And in fact, that's what I originally started my business tenant as, is when I worked for the state of Florida, I was in a government tenant. So we always got the features a little bit late, but I wanted to be able to tell the other people in IT, it's like, hey, I need this access, and I can screenshot like, hey, if you check this off, I'll be able to do X, Y, or Z. So of course they didn't have any premium licensing there. So I got really good at using SharePoint as a data source for all my Power Apps applications. All right, so you're going to need that. I'm going to say recommended have your own tenant. And I'll say here $7. I think you might be able to get it for $6 a month, but that's if you commit to an annual agreement with Microsoft. Now we will be working very closely with Power Automate. And of course, we're going to create the UI and Power Apps. So the question is, do you have the licensing for that? And And in some cases, you might get away with trials as long as you have a valid and 365 license. Um, so Savage or Elvis, is there anything else I'm forgetting here? Like, is there anything that should be in place as they're following along?
All right, I guess that's all we need.
Okay, very good. Well, if we think of any, we could always add it there. But
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah. So those are objectives, our prerequisites. Yeah. So Michelle says, I thought it was going to be hard to get set up. And I'm sure she's talking about the tenant, but it was easy. And it is. Um, now, if you go over to if you guys want some instruction from me on how to create a tenant, that is all available. I have a whole community called the Microsoft Stack. And if you go to the classroom, go into Microsoft Tenant Setup, and I got some free videos out there for that. So let me share the link for that. There's no cost to join this community. So I'm going to share that with everybody here. So you can access those videos just in case you want to create your own. Okay. Um, the center of almost everything that we're going to be doing today is going to be this SharePoint REST API overview. And what is this REST stuff? Now I've heard of PowerApps. Is this power naps? Are we resting? Or like what's going on here? What is this REST? Have you guys ever seen that? I know for a few years as a developer, I've heard of APIs. Um, and an API is an acronym, as I'm sure REST is as well. API stands for Application Programmer Interface. And I believe it was just, let me go to the full workshop listing here. Yeah, the last one that we did was over APIs and custom connectors. So we covered that in very thorough detail there. But what's up with this REST stuff? So it stands for representational state transfer. Okay. And so it's a type of API that is very popular. Yeah, very popular. And it has been for years. And what we're going to have within these methods that we're going to use is going to be using the HTTP, uh, so Hypertext Transfer Protocol is what that stands for. And this is the language of the web. So you've got a browser and you got a web server out there in the cloud, out on the internet. And these are the four operations that you could express to a web server over the web. So whenever you type in a URL at the top, typically you're going to be doing a GET, and you could request a web page, or whatever the default web page is for a domain, but you could be posting information. Have you ever been on a web page and at the bottom there's a button that says submit? You hit submit. Well, that is typically a post to another page that has been defined in the previous page. Then there's a put and a patch. Now we're familiar with patch with PowerApps. Update existing items. Maybe that's where Microsoft got the word patch for updating records, perhaps. And of course, delete is for removing items. Okay. Now I'd like to show you guys an example of what we've been building Monday nights in our template community. So every Monday night at 4 p.m. EST for 2.5 hours, we build pretty much what's equating to, my Ultimate Jumpstart Kit, like a version 2 of it. It's not quite as polished as my original Jumpstart Kit. Now, my original Jumpstart Kit is this project right here. And these are all the screens that help me get a jump start. Well, I use the whole template for an application, and it shaves off at least 35% of the project, of the work, because we have dynamic theming, we have all kinds of good stuff in here. In fact, when I was working for the state of Florida, they had these requirements for if you're doing an application for them, you could only pick from a blue theme, a green theme, a red theme, and they had earth, pond, light. So I defined all of them. So if I was going to do a new application, I'm like, all right, what color palette would you like? I would ask the users or the stakeholders, and they would pick one. And then when it's time for a code review, first question is, does your color palette match? I'm like, yeah, I took it right directly from the documentation, so no, shouldn't be any complaints there. But I added a few of my own. I think Nicole, my wife, she actually helped me create one or two of these themes. I think I like the PowerApps purple the best because PowerApps, right? PowerApps is purple.
Yeah.
um, I really like this blue as well, but everybody has their own preferences. So on Monday night, we've been building this. I need to actually rename this as the Jumpstart Kit 2 2.0. And it doesn't have all the features just yet. It's taking some time, but it's going to be um, the Jumpstart Kit 1.0 uh, multiplied. It's going to have tons more features. It's going to be updated every week or nearly every week. I'd like to take a vacation at some point, uh, or I might be sick some week, But it's got a ton of features and it's driven by your guys' feedback. Those of you who are members within this particular community. And I'm going to share the link for that. And that is just a $25 month membership as well. And you don't even have to come to the Monday night sessions. You could just go in here and go down to resources and downloads and scroll to the bottom. And so we're on version 22, and there's a whole solution package. It has the Canvas apps. It's got all the flows. Um, Everything that is involved in the project is going to be wrapped up in that solution package that you could download and import into your environment. And we have tons of features. If you go over to the community tab here and scroll down, you see a full feature listing for the template. So this is a big listing. I think I want to maybe put this in a better format because there's a lot of stuff in here for a little school post here. These were all the features from the original Jumpstart kit that I definitely want in the second version. But we have a bunch of features up here that we started on, and I'm getting those from feedback from people here down below. People will mention what type of features they'd like to see, and then also we have posts in here where we discuss it as well. So I just wanted to mention all that. Make sure you guys have a good context in which we're talking about all this stuff. So if I mention something, you guys are like, well, what's that? Okay, so this, I do have a screen over here that I was sort of really proud of. We go here. Now, when this screen loads up, it takes a moment because it calls a Power Automate flow and gets a full list of all SharePoint sites within the tenant. And then I created this thing where I could just search for it because Darren has got a lot of SharePoint sites. And I can click on Darren01. What type of site is that? Well, you just click on this little link and it will bring up that SharePoint site. So if you're a SharePoint administrator, you're going to love all this stuff that we're doing. And I would imagine that you'd want to fully harness all the tools at your disposal within the Power Platform to help you administer SharePoint in the organization that you work for. So if I go into site contents, you'll see, boom, look at all these lists that were created here. Now, something I will show you, if I click on Create New, and we have been using the modern controls here in this second template here. If I click on Create New, look at this. Well, it already knows what my email address is. Well, that will be the owner of the SharePoint site. Here is my root URL, and that is dynamically, I've got a little routine in my app.formulas that figures that out, so I don't have to type it in. Now we can put our own site name in here. So I'm going to call this, I'll put my name in there, Darren's SharePoint workshop. So it's giving me the new site URL. Whoa, what did I do there? I don't know. I might have something. Let me see if I have something there that does this. Yeah. I wanted to see as we type, I wanted to see if it was there in the past. I don't know that I want that in there anymore. So that's what brought that up. It did a launch. Of course, the site hasn't been created yet, right? But I want you guys to notice how fast it creates a SharePoint site. The workshop. There we go. Create site, cross your fingers. Hopefully it works. Usually when you present, everything goes wrong. So
Not this time.
yeah. So it created it. And I saw, the spinner went away. So we go back here. Oh, look at this. Start designing your site. Now I just use SharePoint, at least here recently, as a database for my PowerApps applications. I like the minimalistic build of SharePoint. The way that we created it creates like just a skeleton of a SharePoint site, and that's it. There's no frills. There's no bunch of web parts already configured or anything. I can just go to site contents and, we just have a clean, a blank slate to start from. Any SharePoint site's going to have things like a document library and some of these other things, but there's no list created yet. All right. And I see Michelle. I can't imagine the Jumpstart kit being any better. I am behind on my lessons, but what I've gotten done is already amazing. Okay. So Michelle, I bet that you have been using the Jumpstart kit for a while. All right. So it did take a few seconds to create the site, but what is that normally like? If I create a new window here, I say create site. Boom, I get this. And then I have to pick between a communication site and a team site. Now, which one should we pick? Have you ever heard of decision fatigue? If you have to make tons of choices all throughout the day, there's this thing called decision fatigue I've heard of. Uh, a communication site is probably best for your internet website, and perhaps your department, an internet site for your departments, where it's not really meant for collaboration. It's meant for, let's say, an HR department SharePoint where you can go look at the benefits that you forgot about since orientation or whatever. You got all the links that you might need to access, whatever. But a team site, it says create a private space to collaborate with your team. And that's what I pick. I think we could still use a communication site and have all our SharePoint lists in there, but I go with the team site typically. And then again, decision fatigue. What are we doing here? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to pick the wrong one. I typically pick this standard. It was the most minimalistic one. Okay. Notice how many clicks I'm doing here, guys. Okay. What's my site name? Darren's manual site. I guess I'll put spaces in here. Okay. Site description. I've got to type all that out. My PowerApps site already starts a little description for me to get started. And this is going to be the URL. And then I'm going to click next. Oh, we got more decision fatigue, guys. I want anybody in the organization to see. Okay, English. Yeah. I'm going to create the site. Oh, more decision fatigue. Why doesn't it just add me as an owner? Oh, boss. And now I've got to say owner. Okay. And I typically configure all any permissions later on, but I'm going to click finish. And finally, I have a SharePoint site. Okay. So we just eliminated, if you have to do this all day, it's just like, yeah, this click, 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 whatever. But what we've got here is a one-stop shop, one button click, and it will pop up in a new window. I don't know. maybe I'm a little weird. I'm a little bit of a geek or a nerd, but I just think that's so awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I can click cancel and say, okay, well, I've got all the sites I want. Um, let me click on a different screen. Let's see. Let me make sure we have all the fresh new sites in there. So I'm going to click on the home screen and then back over here to the SharePoint screen. And let's see if that, okay, so I'm going to click on this. There we go. And I have this on the screens on visible event where it goes off and calls all the, well, it calls a flow to get all the listing of the sites. And then if I click on something else, well, it's going to show me all the lists in that site. So you see I've got Darren 05 here selected in that gallery, and you see Darren 05 over here. So I list the name there just in case you're looking at these and you don't notice it over here. At least it lists up there. So these are all the lists in Darren 05. And let's say I actually want to pick a site, Darren SharePoint Workshop. So let me go find that. Let me say workshop, PowerApps workshops. And here's another one. Okay, so this one hardly doesn't have anything in there except the documents. That's the document library. So let's say we wanted to create a good 10 or 15 lists all at once. So we'll do this. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're going to create 5 lists within this site. And once we create them, they'll appear here. Let's see how long this takes. Now, I believe what I did was this is going to be 5 separate calls to the flow to create that. I bet you if I asked Elvis to create one flow that would create all 5 in one call, I bet he could do it.
Yeah.
I've had people ask me, it's like, well, could we do that one? I'm like, yeah, I'd have to, look into that, how to handle that. And okay, Nick says you could use concurrent. That's awesome. So I always think of concurrent if I'm going to go populate a collection or something. I never thought about that for Power Automate flows. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Nick. I like that. Nick from the UK. There is a Nick over in YouTube, and his name is Bad Nick. So I have a good Nick and a bad Nick. Okay, so we've got all these new lists. Now, if I wanted to go look at these, I could click on this, go into site contents, and look at all these lists here. That's pretty cool. If we were going to create a new list, go over here. Waiting for this dialog to come up. Blank list. My new list. Say don't show this in the navigation. Click create. Do we lose our music?
Where did it go?
Yeah. Starting the music back up. I think it happens whenever I share my screen.
Where did it go?
So hopefully you guys hear it, but hopefully it's not too loud, though. Did you say something, Savage?
Yeah, Elvis was mimicking you. So I was laughing. Where
Savage,
did it go?
I'm gonna come up with an idea to challenge you on something here. I don't know what, but so we got my new list, and then you got to go, okay, add new column. And let's say we've got like 20 columns to add. You go in here, okay, text. Well, that will be a single line of text. Hit next. And you type, and this is actually a better one than what we had for years. If in SharePoint, you go over here and go into list settings. If you want to add more fields, you click on create column, and you have to wait for this to come up. And then you type up some stuff, and then you look over everything, make sure everything's created correctly, and you hit OK. and then you wait for a good 3 seconds, then it pops up here. And there's our new field. Okay. Now you never want to rename lists or columns. If you guys look at the very bottom of the screen here, you guys see it? It's in purple and white. And at the very end of that URL, it says field equals ASD, pretty much what I called it. Now, if I rename that, sometimes PowerApps gets confused. Have you ever imported an Excel document into SharePoint?
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to create a SharePoint site with this Excel document. What did you notice, Elvis? Any frustration?
It changes your column name to field_1_2, and
Yeah.
PowerApps is confused.
The nomenclature is always very bad.
Yeah. Yeah,
Tries
I
to
don't like
act-
that too much. So I tell people, it's like, hey, when you create these field names, make sure you've really thought it through. I mean, you could try to rename it, and I'm hoping Microsoft has fixed some of the bugs, but that's what I noticed. Whatever I had it called, sometimes people will rename their title. I'm like, don't mess with it. Just leave it alone. You know, you call title something, nice and smart, and then over in your PowerApps application, you might have to refer to it as title, even though you named it something completely different.
Yeah.
Badnick says, thanks for sharing. Yeah. And I see, and Good Nick says, never, never, ever. Now, Nick, is that on the renaming of columns? I bet it is. So I have found the SharePoint interfaces not really the way that I would design it. It's okay, I can deal with it, but if you're a SharePoint admin or you work in IT and you got to work with SharePoint a lot, you're the PowerApps wizard there at your organization. You could create something like this and be the superhero at your organization. That's what I think. So anyhow, well, let's pick one of these here. I'm going to click on a different site and then click on this one again to have it all refresh here. And what was the last one? It's called My New List. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now, what we'll notice here in My New List is there's my new field, ASDF. Now, all these other fields, these are fields that SharePoint creates for you. Isn't this interesting? Because it just looks like we just have title and AS, whatever I named it here. Let's click on add column, but we're really not going to add a column. We're going to go down here and say show or hide columns. Oh, look at all this stuff. Now, ID, you would think that would be very important to people because that is the primary key column. That is an identity field if you're familiar with SQL Server. If you come from Microsoft Access World, that's called an auto number. Elvis or Savage, have you guys ever worked with any other database systems like Postgres, MySQL? What is an auto incrementing number in any other system that you've heard? You guys remember any of them?
In SQL, it is called the primary key or the primary column.
That's what I always use. I always use that identity, which is typically an integer that automatically increments. So I've heard them called because they're called identity in SQL. That's what I call them. But auto number seems to be a better descriptor. What was that?
It's always unique.
Yeah, it's always unique. So guys, if I go in here, and just in case, so this is all about SharePoint. So we might as well discuss a little bit of this. So I'm going to say AAA. I'm not going to put anything there. I don't need anything. I'm going to hit save. Look at that. There's one. Now, if we say, okay, there's 2 B's, we'll create one more with 3 C's. And the one in the middle, let's say we delete that. Okay, what do we have? We have 1 and 3 now. Now, if I create a new record, will I get another 2? Either of you guys know?
No, you won't.
You won't. Okay. Let's see what happens here. DDD. Okay. Look at that. And it's good that it did that. Now you might look at this and be like, oh, I want the first one to say 1, the second one to say 2, the third one to say 3. Well, ignore that. I mean, primary keys, they don't have to be pretty. Their job is to be unique, and they need to be indexed, which is a database term that it adds a capability for the database system to find things very quickly based on an index. You guys are familiar with indexes with physical books, right? So there's a table of contents, which is the normal sort order of the whole book. But if you want to go look up any keywords or look at it a different way, there is an index in the back of the book that allows you to get at the same stuff, but looking at the words as topics.
Yeah, I guess they designed it this way also because if you need to get the deleted item from the recycle bin, it has to bring back that same ID. So,
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you think about it, if we had 2 database tables, and we had this table, which is the primary, and then we had something over here to the side that was a many relationship with that one. So this could be our customer table, and then we got another table called sales. And if we have good customers, they're buying more than one thing, or maybe they have more than one sale. Okay, so a one-to-many relationship. And let's say we had a customer, his name was BBB, and we removed him. What do we do with the many side? You probably, you've got orphan records on your hands at that point. So you should probably remove them if you really are going to, delete the row over there. Of course, I'd always recommend a backup before doing something like that. But if you delete the record like we just did, you might have a bunch of records all over your database and other tables that was relating to that ID of 2. And if we were to create a new record here, the DDD, and we didn't get 4, we got 2, well, now we've got bad data, because all those sales and all that other data is going to refer to this guy that was not BBB. His name is DDD. Yeah.
So to buttress your point, in model-driven app, you can't have orphan records. But when you want to delete the one on the one table, the customer, it's going to refer you back to the child. So you can't have an orphan record in model-driven. It's going to tell you there's a dependent, so you need to delete the dependent first before you'll be able to delete the parent. So it's called parent-child relationship.
It's good that is enforced, and I think a good seasoned DBA would agree with it. That's a good idea. That you really need to delete the many sides. If you want to delete a customer, it's like, okay, well, you're also going to delete all these sales. Are you sure? Then if you had code that would do that, you'd probably delete all the many side and then everything that's associated, and then finally delete this one. And I know within SQL Server, the SQL Server is the data source, the database system that I know the best. I've worked with it the longest. And I know you can set things up to cascade deletes, cascade updates. So ID is important. So I always show that there. And Nick, good Nick from UK, says, don't ever show it to the end user. You can make an auto number. Yeah, so we could create another one here for number, and we could put sequential numbers in there, whatever we need to do. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so going back to this screen, so this is the list that we're working with. Here are all the fields, and then we could add a new one here. Let's say a new list. Now, I never put spaces in my list names or in my field names. And the reason that I don't do that is perhaps a little selfish, because in PowerApps, you got to put little single quotes or apostrophes before and after, the field name or the table name. And I don't like to have to do that. And also, I don't think spaces are good for database objects. So I always take them out. Now what do you think, Savage? For if I was building a model-driven application in Dataverse, do you put spaces in your table names and field names?
You can include spaces, but I think the best way to set up your database is to ignore spaces. I think for SQL, it doesn't take spaces for SQL.
Yeah.
But in Dataverse, it takes spaces.
What I tell people is, even with dealing with Dataverse, if you're doing a bunch of Canvas apps and you're not doing model-driven, keep the spaces out of there. But if you're going to do model-driven, doesn't Dataverse use those, like it will name screens and also the labels for all the fields? It almost needs those spaces in there for it to look right, right?
Exactly.
That's been my experience. And that's what I tell people. So, well, should I put a space here or not? In Dataverse, I'm like, well, are you going to do any model-driven? If you're going to do model-driven, then yeah, you might want to. So you see here that we have the capability. We've named off a new field. And look, we have single line of text. We got multiple lines of text. Numeric, yes, no, and date time. Now we have other choices over here in SharePoint. If I was going to add a new column, look at all this. We have choice, which I've got a video out there. If you do a search for Darren Neese on YouTube and say never use choice, you'll see my video. And I say never use. If you want to use a choice, just create a new database table. So choice is a complex type, and that's bad if you're building an application. And I'll tell you why in a second. Person, that's a complex type. Don't use that. Now I know a lot of people do. Well, instead of like storing that in there as a complex type, what I do is I store their email address or their intra ID, the Azure AD is what it used to be called, their ID in there instead of a complex value, which would be person. Hyperlink. Now what I would do would be a single line of text. I don't like it messing with or adding anything new to it or making it more complicated than what it is. And even images. I believe images for years, they have been read-only. I rarely use them. Do you guys, either of you or any of you here in the chat, I don't think they've changed it, but if they have, let me know. So if I need to store an image, I will either store it as a base64 string in multiple lines of text, or I'll put it over in a document library. Yeah, and Lisa says, yes, I do. Yes, AO. Yes, I do. Okay, you do what? Do you use images? And Cody says, I've never had good luck with using the image data type. Lisa needs coffee. Yeah, it takes me when I wake up in the morning, it takes a good hour or two for all the caffeine and stuff to kick in. I know that feeling. Sometimes in the afternoon, you need that as well. So I don't use image. I don't use this managed metadata. I don't use lookup. Now in Dataverse, a lookup type of column is actually a good thing. Would you agree with that, Savage?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that how you establish all your relationships and everything over in Dataverse? Yeah.
Exactly. So in Dataverse, when you use lookup, it creates a relationship for you automatically. So you don't need to create any relationship. Lookups will create relationship for you. Yeah. But there's a way you can create relationship manually too. But once you use a lookup column, it creates it for you automatically.
Okay. You know what, guys, just to let you know, I did a poll in the free community about these workshops. If you go out here, I think the next one, here I said free workshop tomorrow afternoon, which is right now. And you see here, this one had the most votes. Okay. And at the time I was looking at this, it actually tied with Dataverse, but at first this was like way ahead. So that's why I went with this one. Now we're going to have a whole day in the boot camp the week after next week. But if you guys would like a workshop on this, we could definitely do that next week. It looks like it's the winter after that, or we could do YAML code generation. But Yeah, we have 8 votes here, so it seems like you guys would like to hear about that more next. But yeah, Dataverse is a fun topic. It's a great data source. It's actually SQL Server underneath the scenes. In fact, you can connect to it with Microsoft's SQL Server Management Studio tool, like you would connect to a SQL Server database. A lot of people don't know that, but yeah, it's a SQL Server database. So these are the only types I would recommend creating. Now, if I needed to create, let's say I was tempted to create a lookup, which is a complex type. You're like, well, there's a relationship here. I want to create a lookup. What you should do, and if you do a search on YouTube with my name, Darren Neese, I've got plenty of relationship advice. And it's about creating relationships in database tables. So you create a numeric type as a foreign key, and then you go out to the parent table, the one side of the relationship, and you grab the ID value and you put it in that numeric. The main reason I tell people stay away from the complex types and stick with these simple types is because you're going to have some delegation issues. Because in your queries, let's say we're doing a filter inside of a PowerApps, and we have a complex column, and you're trying to see if it equals to something else. Well, it's not just the field name. You got to say field name dot value or field name dot this or that. And whenever you do that, you hit a dot and something else. SharePoint's like, here, let me just give you all the data and you figure it out. It's not delegable. And things that if you were using Dataverse or SQL Server, many more of the functions that you use are delegable, much more than SharePoint. But SharePoint's a lot better than using Excel as a data source. Looks like there's a lot of activity over in YouTube on this stream. And Bargav, hopefully I pronounced your name right. I tried Base64. It slowed the loading list so much, left the list useless. Maybe I did something wrong, but when I changed the image type column, I didn't have any issue. If you're going to use Base64 text, don't include it here. You know what I mean? So if I could go here and say hide. So don't show it. But yeah, if especially if your images are large, you may not want to use the Base64. You might want to put that into a document library. Okay. And in a lot of cases, that's what I prefer because it's much more scalable and it performs better. But if you're just looking for a little tiny image avatar and you make them upload something that's like 100 to 200 pixels in the width and height, you're probably not going to have any problem at all. But for any large files, definitely use a document library instead. Okay. And I've got a new list. I'm going to make it single line of text, and I can say, hey, I want this required or not. I'm going to click add field. And there we go. And I should see that a new list. Now, did it add it to the bottom here? I don't know that I did I probably should have done the code that I have in this. Should have, maybe I don't have it there. Let's see here. Was it, which one was I on? Attachments, the next. Was it this new SharePoint list too? Is that the one that I was on, or was it? Okay, workshops, my new list. Oh, there it is. Okay. It doesn't take much to get me confused. There it is, new list. And if I want to work with it, look, I've got little icons here that allows me to click on it and just go there. There's my new list. And it looks like I've got 3 records. Here we go.
This is really cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is awesome.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, Cody says, I've never had good luck using the image data type. And Lisa says, yes. We have Hippie PP. Hi, Darren. I'm a PowerApps noob learning. Is it possible to email or alternative? You a question with a couple of screenshots? Yes. what I recommend doing is, I'm hoping that if you go into the YouTube video, the live stream that you're watching, go into the description, there's a link, and it's going to invite you to my free community and get you access to my free crash course on PowerApps. Okay. And once you join, you just go in here, ask your question, put all your screenshots in there, maybe even a link to a Loom video. And absolutely. And you might get an answer from either me, Elvis, Savage, or one of 1,700 other people that are in the community as well. All right. So this is what's capable. Now, I don't have any delete capabilities in here. What I was trying to go for with this template was, if I'm using SharePoint, I've got a Canvas app, and I want to deploy this in a new tenant. I want the application to be able to create all those SharePoint, we'll create a new SharePoint site, all the lists, all the fields and everything. So the person I sold the application to or gave it to, they don't have to spend hours and hours creating all these lists and all these different things. And let's say they misspelled a list name or column name. Well, now they're going to have errors, and now they've got to troubleshoot it, and they might have to call me or book some time with me and have to look at it. You know, I just want it to work for people. Well, you don't have to have a pretty little interface like this. What you could do is you could have something over here in the app on start. Now, I chose to live life on the edge, and I turned app on start off because I have a sneaking suspicion. I don't have any inside information on this, by the way, that they're eventually going to take app on start away from us. It just feels like they're trying to slowly take it away, because I think people are abusing it and making all their apps slow, which makes PowerApps look bad. And reading their blog entries, it seemed like that happens a lot with PowerApps for Teams. Everybody puts all kinds of stuff in the app on start, makes the app sluggish, makes it load up really slow, and people are like, oh, that's crap. So they want you to start using app formulas, which is a great place to put things. As you can see, I've been making great use of app formulas. I've got all kinds of color palettes and a few icons in there. So I've been moving things over there. Just keep in mind that's all declarative type of code. No imperative code can be in app formulas. And you'll notice the difference. If you want to write imperative, well, there are certain functions that are imperative, like patch or clear collect or notify. It seems like half of them, or about half, I don't know the exact number, but a lot of them are imperative. And you're used to putting those in app on start. Well, you'll notice a pattern here. I have the app selected, and you see app down here at the very bottom of the screen. It says app. We only have on air and on message. And probably most of you have the app on start. Well, look what I do in on air. I've got all this code that if there's an error that happens at all within my application, it builds a collection and sends out an email with all this HTML with all the error information. But formulas does not start with on. So that's a dead giveaway that you can't put imperative code in there. Now, you could try to put imperative code in, and you'll find out that you can't. So what I do is I have a loading screen, and I put everything in here that I want it to, to load up. Probably use the concurrent function like Nick was advocating at the beginning of the workshop. Okay, so that is what's possible. And what I'm thinking is I think I want to start with my Jumpstart kit. I didn't want to use this other project. Now, you could start with a blank new project. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to say save as, and I'm going to call this SharePoint Jumpstart. And I'm going to put a date here. 2024 on 9/13. do a save as. And when you do a save as, you're creating a copy. And I don't need to see a video on how to use the Jumpstart Kit, so I'm going to remove that and save it. Now I'm going to pick a color palette that I like, and I don't want to create something that makes me think of SharePoint. Purple, no. Dashboard, not bad. Orange and blue, not so much. I think it's the light theme, like a nice light blue. Years ago, there was a default theme that was a nice blue. Now this is more like teal, but I always thought it looked nice, the default theme for SharePoint. So there's also an Office theme. That's not bad. I think I'm going to stick with the light theme for now. Okay. So we could start with this. Now, my Jumpstart Kit has got very minimal amount of outside dependencies. So if I go over to data, there is no data, because I can't assume that you have any data sources created when you open up the Jumpstart Kit. We'll go over to Power Automate. There's no automate flows here. Okay. Want to make sure that I'm keeping up with the comments. So Hippie, yeah, the best way to ask questions, really hard for me to see screenshots in YouTube comments. So sometimes whenever you ask a question, you know, we'll go over to like, hey, come over to the school environment so we can help you better with screenshots, videos. It's just a better way to interact. And then we have Jeremy from France. Thanks for sharing all that knowledge. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for joining the workshop this week. Bargov says, I've created a one-to-many relationship so I can save multiple images for a record. That's how I would do that. If you have a one-to-many relationship, use a document library for all those images. Hippie says, that's so helpful. I was on a roll in the course and came to a grinding halt. Thank you so much. You're welcome. And then somebody named Elvis says, yeah, so Elvis pasted a link over to the school community. Thank you for that, Elvis. And then Michelle says, come join us in the group. Yeah. I really like the school community. I really do. And if you haven't joined yet, you'll probably find out that you really like it as well. Okay. Now, Elvis and Savage, let's talk about best practices for a moment. I've got a fresh new app. Now, you know, I'm using the Jumpstart Kit here, of course, but I've got a Canvas app, and I'm going to create a bunch of Power Automate flows, and maybe some other things. Maybe I got a custom connector. Should I just willy-nilly maybe go over to Power Automate and just start creating flows? Should I start creating my flows here? Or is there a better way? What is the most recommended best practice way from starting here? Like, you know, we could create a solution out of all those choices I just listed. What would you guys say is the best way, the proper way?
Since we are creating an admin screen, if we're going to start with the Jumpstart Kit here, we can, I believe the Jumpstart Kit is in a solution, so we can include the flows we'll be creating in that same solution. We could start with the parameters we'll be sending to Power Automate. So we can just, you know, put in the text input on the button right here on the screen, and we can go over to Power Automate to start creating.
Okay. Yeah, I like what you said. I also like what Nick said in the comments. So there's a version 1 of the Jumpstart Kit. It's just an MS app file. So what I've noticed when I interact with Power Automate is that sometimes it's hard for it to like find these Power Automate flows. Like if I just go over to Power Automate and I create something, it's hard to get PowerApps to see it for some reason. And it's gotten better over the years. But yeah, go ahead.
So the thing is, when you want to use Power Automate inside of PowerApps or Canvas app, it is better to create it from your Canvas app. That's the best practice.
It's best to create a what?
If you want to make use of Power Automate from your Canvas app, so it's better to create it inside your Canvas app. Like create it from your Canvas app. So it's better like that.
Now, would you recommend that I create the solution first or worry about the solution later?
The solution
Uh,
first.
So let me just say it like this. The best practice before you build any application is to create a solution.
Yeah. And that's what I've always heard is always start with a solution. And, you know, sometimes I'm guilty of being lazy. I just want to jump in there and start doing it. Of course, you guys hear me preach all the time. Don't open up PowerApps. Go do your ERD diagram. Go do this. But I go in here and don't even create a solution. And but I've learned
your applications are for educational purpose. Assuming
that's true. Thank you.
You're going to deploy. Assuming you are deploying, you have to create a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe in practicing what I preach, but sometimes, you know, this is for educational and I'm just going to do it quickly here. And
yeah.
So let's create a new, well, and I think in order to add it, do I need to be out of this, Savage, in order to create this solution?
No, you can create a solution, then you click on add an existing. So you add an existing application from your solution.
All right. Now I'm gonna find out what the workshop number is for this. I gotta stay organized here. So workshop number 27. So I'm gonna call this workshop 27 if you guys wanted to get a copy of this. And I'm gonna say SharePoint admin. Okay. Now, do you guys have anything to say about the publisher? Anything that you feel like people should know about? If they're creating a fresh new solution, are there any considerations that we need to review while creating either a new publisher or using one of them here?
Basically, the publisher is like, yeah, go on.
So the publisher is just like a signature for you.
Signature?
So, yeah. So anybody that makes use of your solution is going to know where it is coming from. You know?
Yeah.
So it's just like a stamp on your solution.
Yeah. That just shows that it was created by, you know, a particular person.
Yeah. What I found is when I go look at my Dataverse objects, they'll have a little prefix. Like if I pick this default publisher CDS, which was the old name for Dataverse, right? I'll see a CR5A062 underscore, then the things that I created. And I think it looks a little ugly. So I created Super Power Labs. Now, I don't know who created this, but I like this because it's a 3-letter prefix. Maybe I should create a DAR for Darren.
Yeah, that's me.
Or a Sav for Savage. I like it. Okay, so I'm going to pick Super Power Labs. And yeah, I sort of like that better than these other prefixes. So I'm going to pick that. And we're going to start with this version 1. And I don't think I want to do anything with that. Now, I always like to create unmanaged solutions. Now, I know Microsoft wants us to create managed solutions, but do realize if you create a managed solution, you could deploy it somewhere, but you can't open it up and look at the code or trying to fix it. It's like it's compiled, it's encrypted or something. And if you want to change it, you got to go back to the person that created the package and say, hey, I need you to fix something or add a feature. So it's sort of nice if you're selling your software or if you're deploying it in a production. But for the purposes of development, I like to create it as an unmanaged solution. Also, I was working with a guy in IT. He was a network engineer, and you know he sees all this recommended, you know, the official documentation from Microsoft that says, yeah, do manage. So we set up a QA environment or UAT, user acceptance testing. What's that? Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
And he created a managed, and then when it didn't work, my dev environment worked great, but something over there in QA, UAT did not work. And they wanted me to figure it out. I'm like, well, you created it as a managed solution. And then they tried to uninstall it, and they had all kinds of problems. They hosed up the whole environment, and they had to create a new environment. It's like, guys, I told you, you guys want me to help you out, you know. But I would understand that for production, and I don't want access. Like if I'm working for or with, a large corporation, they have a whole IT department. I don't want to have access to production at all, because if something goes wrong, everybody knows Darren doesn't have access. So it wasn't Darren.
Yeah.
So that's the standard. When you are creating an application, your testing, your development environment will always be unmanaged. But your production environment will be managed.
Has to be managed.
So your production solution will also be managed. So that after creating a standard application, somebody else can't just come into it and change something. You understand? So it's a standard.
Yeah, that is good for production. You don't want things to be changed. You don't have any possibility of somebody going and messing it up. Absolutely. So guys, I want to remind you, this is a workshop. I am expecting all of you to be following along. So hopefully, as we step by step, that you guys are doing things. So if you guys have any issues as we're going along, you guys can say, hey, that didn't work, or you can ask a question. But if you wait till the workshop's over with, then I'm not around to answer questions. So please do follow along. Okay. Yeah, just making sure that I'm up with all the comments. Everything's looking good. And I'm going to click create. Sometimes this takes a moment. Sometimes it takes a few. Does anybody have a dad joke? Well, first of all, it's Mark here. Mark, come on. Either a dad joke or somebody's going to tell me something exciting they're going to be doing for this weekend. And don't tell me you're going to Vegas for the Power Platform Conference. I don't want to hear about that. I want to go to one of those one of these days. If I'm not so busy, I can go. Mark says, I made a pencil with 2 erasers. It was pointless. Ooh, Jason's got one. My doctor told me that I was going deaf. That news was hard to hear. Love it. Okay, so here's our solution. And so far, what do we have? We just have a Canvas app. And is it a new or existing? Well, it's an existing. So let's go over here to app, Canvas app. And then what do we have to pull in? Here's the ultimate one. Let's say outside of Dataverse. Okay, we got all kinds of stuff here. And I'm looking for that one right there, the SharePoint Jumpstart. And I'll add that. Look at that. It's locked. Somebody's got it locked. Let me get out of this. And it's always good to exit out properly. Now, some people might be like, oh, it's saved. I'm just going to close it out. What I've noticed is if you do that and you don't click on back and then say leave, it gets all confused and it thinks you're still in there. And when you try to open it up again, it's like, oh, this is locked. Do you want to overwrite it? So I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to retry it. Add. I keep all my dad jokes in a base. I know you guys aren't laughing because you guys have heard it too many times. That's my favorite one. I think my wife actually bought me a shirt that says that too. Cody says, do you know McDonald's used to sell bubblegum flavored broccoli? Not a dad joke or a weekend thing, but I thought it's wow. Okay, that wasn't really bubblegum flavored broccoli. I did not know that. That's weird. Nick says, ouch. Okay, so some Canvas apps are currently not available. Okay, and it's like really needing to think here. And I'm completely out of it. Sometimes working with solutions can take a while. And I'm sort of tempted to click X or cancel. I'm going to give it probably another 10 seconds and then I'm going to close it down and try to get back in here. Yeah, I think I'm done. Add existing app, Canvas app. See a
At
little
this point,
spinner there.
I think we just need to refresh the whole browser at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right. If it doesn't work, then reboot it. That solves so many problems. It's a little ridiculous.
I guess it's there.
Look at that. It did add it for me. Okay. So we have that. And so now we can go back over here and open this guy up. SharePoint Jumpstart. Now, the question is, guys, do we try to create a new Power Automate flow from here by going into automation, cloud flow, instant, or should I create it within PowerApps here? And if I create it here, does it automatically add it to the solution package? You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you create it from the new, it's going to be added into the solution.
Okay, so if I add it here, it will automatically add it into the solution?
No. If you create it from your solution,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be added into your solution automatically.
Okay, let's do this. So we'll do
But
a
if you
new.
create it from your Canvas app, it won't be added to your solution.
So it would be added if we did do it over here. Is that what you're saying?
No. If you create from your Canvas app,
Mm-hmm.
it won't be added. It will just be a flow. Then you can add it.
Okay.
You can include it to your solution. But if you create
So
from your solution,
is there one way that you believe is a better way? Should I do it from the
No,
solution or
anyone.
from here?
You can do it from your Canvas app.
Okay.
I think it's better.
All
from
right.
Canvas.
Let's do it. I'm going to create from blank. And I think the first thing that we want to do is go get a listing of all of our SharePoint sites. Because when you're thinking about creating a new site, you need to make sure that you're not creating one with there's already one out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a trigger from PowerApps and it's using the latest one. Okay, so that's good. And most of what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be working from is, let's type in SharePoint because we have all kinds of SharePoint actions to pick from. Now look at what we have here. If we pick SharePoint, I want to see all of them. We could add an attachment. We do all kinds of stuff here. Now, do we have anything that lists out? We have a list folder. What about get sites? I don't see that either. So if you see an action that you want to perform with SharePoint and you don't see it here, may I suggest that you type in here HTTP, and we've got send HTTP request to SharePoint. I always get sort of tongue-tied when I say HTTP. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna pick. All right. Now, if we look here, we could say, oh yeah, I could just pick something from here. Now, in this case, we want this whole list that it's showing us. So perhaps the site that we should give it is our root site. Now, if you go over here to SharePoint, your root site, you see that SharePoint.com? We've got all this in front of it. Well, you need to know what that is. And would we want to make ourselves go off and find that? No. So what I recommend is that we pass the root site in. And let's create a text here. And this is going to be the name of the parameter. So let's say root SharePoint site. Now, Elvis, is it okay that I include spaces here, or should I take out all the spaces? Which do you recommend?
I recommend taking the spaces out.
Take it out. Okay. That's what I'm going to do then. And
Because Because if we don't, we will need to add single quotes around the in PowerApps. So
Yeah,
it's better we
nobody's
take
got
it out.
time for that.
Yeah.
That's just a pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Michelle says, what about get lists? There is a get lists. And so when we get to the list, we could do that. I can't remember. Elvis, you saw my solution before. Do I use get list or did I use the HTTP request? Do you remember?
You use the HTTP request.
Yeah. Because I think I had more control over it.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to get more columns in there, with this action here, we could request more information or have more control over what's being returned.
Definitely.
So what I'm going to do for this site address is I'm going to click on enter custom value. And look at this. There is this parameter that was passed in called root SharePoint site. Okay, so we're going to have to pass that in. Now, something I want to point out, if you guys are members of the Tech Workshop, and if you're not, feel free to join. We have these things here. We got list SharePoint fields, SharePoint sites. Okay, there's one here, list SharePoint sites. So I'm going to open this one up, okay, and see what Elvis did here. So if you want a step-by-step guide, videos are nice. I enjoy videos, but sometimes you don't want to have to play a video and stop it, pause it, and like, okay, now I need to like do exactly what the video is saying. Well, the PDF like this that Elvis created for us, you could print it out and have it right in front of your keyboard and go step by step. So sometimes this type of stuff is advantageous to use over a video. So
and it's great we have the PDF because there are some codes you would like to just copy and paste, which the video doesn't give you.
Absolutely. Let's see here. So I wanted to find the point and see, look at that root SharePoint site URL. I like it. I also like the fact, Elvis, that you put URL in there. So you know exactly, like somebody might, if that URL was there, somebody using the flow might say, oh, I'm just going to pass in the name of this site. No, we need the URL.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look at that. So he shows us we're going to use the HTTP request to SharePoint. And yeah, we say custom value and we pick it. Okay. So if you guys want to follow along like that, bring up this this document here. And I'm going to go back over here. And was it a get? Do we use a get here? I don't remember. Yeah. Yeah, get.
Yeah.
Now the URI, what does URI stand for? That's an acronym, right?
Yeah.
Universal Resource something or other. I think I found out what it was at some point.
Yeah, Uniform Resource Identifier.
Okay. Uniform Resource Identifier.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to paste this code in there. Okay, so what is this? We got an underscore API. We're going to search. Okay, here's a query. Now you notice there's a question mark. So if you're a web developer, you know that this is what's called a query string.
Yeah.
And you could put arguments after a question mark, and you should only have one question mark in the whole URL here. And we can pass things in here. Okay, content class. So this looks like something that SharePoint would understand. STS underscore site. So it's probably, we're probably telling it, hey, we're looking for sites here. Trim duplicates, false. Select properties, select properties. And Elvis lists out the properties that he probably knows to be useful for our purposes. So the title, the path, site ID, all this good stuff. And we could tell it the limit. Now, if you leave, I recommend really copying what he has here. In fact, I'm gonna select, try to get that underscore as well. Just in case you guys don't have access to this PDF, I'll paste it there. You know what? Something I don't realize I do sometimes when I'm inside of a Zoom webinar. is I put stuff in the chat, but it's not to everyone. It just goes to host and parent. So if I ever say, guys, I'm posting this right now and you don't see it, remind me that I didn't do it right. Yeah. Okay, very good. So now that I have that on the clipboard, I'm going to go over here and look at that. There's the URI. I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to paste it right there. And if you leave this off, I think it only gets like 20 or maybe 10. I think initially I left that off when I was working through doing this on Monday nights when we're doing our template. I was like, I know I've got more SharePoint sites than what it's showing me. And once I put this thing in here, then I saw them. I definitely don't have anything near 500. Okay, so now we have, I want to get rid of this thing that keeps popping up there. Now we have headers. Now let's go over to our PDF. Okay, here's the headers. So we need one called accept, and the value for that will be application JSON OData verbose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control C. Now I use a feature within Windows where I can copy multiple things to my clipboard and I can access them later. So I hit Control C for these, and what it takes is for you to use it at least once. So I'm going to click on the headers and I'm going to hit Windows V. Look at that. There's the accept. And for the value, I'm going to hit Windows V. And there's that portion. Okay, so we got that. All right, step 3. Save and test the flow to get the JSON response. Okay, testing seems like a great idea. Okay, so after we have all that in there, we're going to test and we're going to do it manually. Okay, so I'm going to do, I do know my root site URL, so I'm going to grab that, put that on the clipboard. And I'm going to save this. Now, what I don't like about creating flows inside of PowerApps, it's like you have more tools if you work inside of Power Automate natively.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's nice to create things here so PowerApps sees it right away. Sometimes you got to go in here and hit refresh and all kinds of stuff to get, to see it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the waffle. That's actually a technical term, waffle, those 9 dots up there. And I'm going to open up Power Automate. And I'm going to hope that I see this new flow that I created. Okay, my flows. And
that's it.
This is our new one. Yeah. Now I hate that name. Look at that. We got spaces, we got dashes, we got angle brackets. Let's rename this. Now I wonder if I rename it, is it going to mess this thing up at all? I guess we'll find out. So I'm going to go up here to the top and I'm going to say what I like to use for my naming convention, and I'm not going to follow it because it will conflict with the stuff I already have there. I like to put the trigger name in there. So I might say PA for PowerApps and do an underscore, that type of thing. But here I'm going to spell it out, PowerApps underscore. And what is the main thing that we're going to be working with? Well, SharePoint actions. And then what are we going to be looking at? Sites. What are we doing with sites? Well, we just want to list them off. Okay. So that's the new name I'm going to give it there. And we're confronted with this new designer. Would everybody like a moment right now just to scream out about how much you dislike the modern designer for Power Automate? We'll have a moment of silence for those of us who want to. What are you guys' thoughts on this modern? Do you guys like it?
I think most people are used to the old designer, so we can just switch.
Yeah. I'm not seeing any comments yet, but maybe they're all coming. Maybe people are like typing a paragraph about how much they dislike them. And what I see a lot of people do is they'll just like, oh yeah, get rid of this, boom. Okay, this is what I'm used to, and this is what we're used to over in PowerApps. So Did you notice what it just did to my name?
Ouch.
It renamed it. It took it out.
Yeah.
That's another reason I don't like the modern designer. Okay, so we got Power Apps, SharePoint, Sites, List. Now I'll be certain to hit the save button now. There we go. And Elvis suggests that we test at this point. So I'm going to say manual test. Now we're going to have to provide that parameter in here. So I am going to hit Windows V, and that is my root SharePoint site. Okay, I'm going to run the flow. Okay, I'm going to hit done. Okay, it's running. Now, while that's running, I'm going to go over here and see what the next step is. Okay, so we pasted that in, we ran it. And after it runs a test, it says copy the JSON response from the result of that step to a SharePoint action. Okay, so we're going to use this output. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here. It looks like it's still running. Ashwin says on YouTube, says, hate it with 2 exclamation points. That's the passion I like. They say passion is a mixture of both love and hate. That's what passion is. So maybe we love the classic and hate the new one here. I'm surprised it's taken this long.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Maybe we can go back and refresh.
Okay, so should I hit this back arrow here or hit edit? Which do you recommend?
You can hit the back arrow.
All right, let's do that. It's been running for 1 minute and 22 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, we can hit the refresh button at the lower part of the screen where you have the all runs. Yeah, it's the refresh icon.
All right. Click on that refresh. Looks like it's still running there. Now, do you think it's okay to hit edit here and go back and run another test, or are we gonna have to wait for this? What do you recommend?
We can run another test just to see.
Another test? All right. I like it. Live life on the edge. Okay. Test. Manual. Ooh, I like the automatic, so I don't have to type it in again. But I also, the first one isn't really running that well, so maybe manual. Okay. Windows V, there it is. Run flow. Click done. See how much faster, and this means it's still running, right? But it says 5 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds.
Yeah, still running.
It seemed like the first time through it didn't even, it's like it didn't even get to that second part. Mm.
Do we need that joke at this point?
Yeah, Mark. Open up your database. What do you call a fish with no eyes? Fish. Fish. There's somebody out there that hasn't heard that joke yet, and they're laughing hysterically right now. Wow, I'm really surprised with Power Automate today. Maybe everybody across the world, it's the end of their week and everybody's running their Power Automate flows at the same time to wrap everything up for the week, and that's why it's taking so long.
How about we go back and check the previous one?
Okay. It's still running. Wow.
Can you just refresh the whole browser?
Okay. Something I do want to do, because this has a reference to it, is I'm going to back out of this just in case it's holding it up in some way. And then I'm going to refresh like you suggested there. Leave. Yes, leave. Okay. I'm going to refresh here. And you see it's still running. Wow, that's so odd.
Can we go into the edit mode to see if we copy the right queries correctly?
Sure. In PowerApps or right here, you want me to click at it?
Yeah, right here. Edit.
Okay. We'll do edit here. And do you want me to hit test again, or?
Yeah, no, we can expand the send an HTTP request. Okay. Okay.
You know what we could do is we could, and Mark says his is still running as well. Cody says, I don't tell dad jokes that often, but when I do, he usually laughs. We could start creating our other one. So whenever we list off all the sites, maybe the next thing we want to do, we verify that the site we want to create is not already created, and we need to create one. So I'm going to back out of this. Now, do I need to save? I guess I'll go ahead and save. Okay, I'm going to back out. And I think I'm going to leave this in place. And I am going to duplicate that tab. And click on my flows. And this is something that I've noticed. Like, I'm tempted to say, hey, new flow, and create it here. But what I've experienced is it takes a long time for PowerApps to be able to see any new flows I create here. So what I'd like to do is open up this app and create it from there. Am I remembering right? If we create the flow in PowerApps, it doesn't give us the ability to test it, does it? I think that's why we went over to Power Automate.
Yeah.
And Ashwin says, new server outage from Microsoft. Now it's time for PowerApps. Yeah, hopefully not, but it seems like something's down or something's slow. All right, so I'm going to go over here to Power Automate Flows, and it's got the old name. I'm going to hit refresh and see if it, unable to refresh the flow. Solution flows added via the old pane. Is this the old pane? Cannot be refreshed and need to be removed and re-added manually instead. Okay, so I'm going to have to remove it. See, this is the type of drama of, like, you got PowerApps, Power Automate, and you got solutions and getting everything to see each other. I have found to be a bit of a pain in the rear. So let's see if we can add it back easily here. I am going to click on this ellipsis. What's that?
Yeah, sometimes when you create an application and you leave it for a very long time, when you open it back, you need to drop the Power Automate. Add it back.
Yeah.
To have broken. I was just trying to purchase it.
Yeah. I'm going to hit refresh here, and hopefully we're going to see it, and I don't see it. Now, something I'd like to see if this helps us out is I'm going to close out here. And I want to see that it closes out, because sometimes it really doesn't. Okay, it's gone. I'm going to go over to our solution. I'm going to say add existing, automation, cloud flow. And outside of Dataverse, there it is. So I'm going to add it. So here in a few minutes, we'll take a break. I'm thinking at least 20 minutes. I need to get up and stretch my legs. 4 hours is a long time. But I got a question for you guys as you guys are following along. Is anybody stuck? Is anybody have an error or something? Of course, I'm experiencing my own here. But let me know if you guys have any issues along the way. We want to make sure that nobody gets stuck at any step in the process. That's the benefit of going through a workshop.
I think your network also is very slow today. Or what do you think?
Yeah, it's a bad day to do a workshop, huh? I am going to click the X and I'm going to hit refresh because that's what we did last time, and then boom, it just showed up. So we got apps. Now we don't have any cloud flows, so I guess I'm going to try that again. Add existing, cloud flow, outside Dataverse. I'm going to add it. Have either of you done much with Power Automate Desktop or the RPA side of Power Automate? Every once in a while, I get somebody ask me about that, and always sounds like really interesting, sort of fun. I just don't have a lot of time to get in there and explore it.
I haven't done much of that. I only did data scrapping, web scrapping.
Yeah.
You can do web scrapping.
Mark says, why did the software coder enjoy pressing the F5 key? It was refreshing. It's interesting because ever since I got into computer programming back with Visual Basic back in 1998, in order to run your application, you hit F5. And then with Visual Studio doing C# or whatever, you hit F5 to run it. And here in PowerApps, you hit F5. So F5 is near and dear to our hearts, even as PowerApps people. Well, I'm almost inclined to start our break now. And hopefully when we come back from our break, things go better for us. Yeah. I'm going to bring up my timer application. And we'll go for a full 20 minutes. Ooh. And we'll see you guys here in a bit. All right. I am back and ready to go. Look at our solution over here. This is funny. So something must be going on with the Microsoft data centers, or at least the one that we're using here. I'm going to hit refresh. And let's see what we get. Nope. All right, so I'm going to go over to PowerApps and go in and try to edit this one. Everybody have a good break?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just checked. We had a few more people sign up for the boot camp. If you guys don't know about the boot camp, that is going to be the 23rd of this month. It's going to be a 5-day course where we start at 9 a.m., go to 4 p.m. with a hour lunch. There's going to be lots of practical labs and exercises in that boot camp. And yeah, it's priced very affordably, and you pretty much get almost everything that I offer. Yeah, Mark says flow run timed out. Try again. So Mark, so you're experiencing the same thing. Would you experience, Elvis?
So I recommend we create the flow directly from Power Automate, the Power Automate environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if either of these ran. Test failed after 30 minutes. That's wild. Okay. Okay, so we're going to create the flow that will create the site. What I'd like to do is try another test and let it run, and then we'll go and create that one.
Yeah. I guess we are having this issue because we first created from PowerApps, then went over to Power Automate. So if we have created directly from Power Automate, it should work fine, because I just performed another test and it worked fine here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you recommend that I create a new one for this, or do you think if I did? Yeah. Okay. And okay, so let me get out of this. I'll go back to flows here, and I'll say
Instant Cloud Flow.
And we'll use PowerApps there, and we'll give it a name here. I'm gonna use PowerApps _ SharePoint, and then here we'll say site listing. How about that? Create, and it's going to give us the new designer that nobody likes, right?
Yeah.
I am going to save it before, and the thing, we can't save it. That's funny. I'm going to copy the name just in case it takes it out. Okay, keep the name, which is nice.
We got lucky this time.
Yeah. All right, so root SharePoint URL. And we're going to add a new step. And this is going to be HTTP. And we're going to go with the one for SharePoint. And I guess this is one way of getting good at something. If you have to redo it over and over again, you start to get a little better with repetition. So I do remember get is what we want to go with.
Yeah.
And okay, this is interesting. Michelle says, I went and created it directly in the Power Automate. I had an issue one time before creating it in the app. I don't like that. Mine is running. Yay. So I think she did what you were saying, and it worked. So isn't it beautiful when a bunch of people get together, put their minds together, we can figure a lot more things out than just one of us on our own.
Yeah, exactly.
The beauty of a community. So let me go over to your documentation here. And I'm looking for the URI, which is right here. Control C. And I'm going to paste it there. Okay, that looks good to me. Feels so much better after just a few minute break. It's great. I think I'm going to close that one down. Otherwise, I'm going to keep coming back to it. And I think I got accept. Yeah, I'm going to paste that there. And we'll copy that and paste it there. Okay.
Yeah. Save and
now
test.
Save it. Okay, now we're going to test it manually. Let's go over and get our URL here.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll use the server. Okay, it didn't give me this before. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Continue, and then I'm gonna paste that in. Mhm.
No,
Or
good.
you can,
Good.
okay. All right. Okay, now it's gonna run. Okay.
Ah,
Wah, wah.
I got mine to work in less than 5 seconds.
Go
yeah, it
where?
should be Savage, is yours working?
But it's working.
Yeah.
Guess Microsoft doesn't like me today.
I guess so.
I'm gonna give it up to 60 seconds, and then I don't know what I'll do. I'm gonna create an Azure function in C# that does this.
It's frustrating.
It is. Hmm. Well, something we can do is open up a new tab and work on our second flow, because we got a few flows to create here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick with this naming convention. New flow, instant cloud flow. We're going to pick this, and I'm going to say PA_SP for SharePoint, and I'm going to say create. Set create. There we go. I don't know. Should I use the new designer?
No. Let's work with the old one.
It doesn't like me switching. I remember whenever I did this, I'm going to copy the name here just in case it renames it on me. Whenever I did this, it would be like, okay, now you need to take a survey. Why did you do that? Why did you go back to the classic one? Oh boy. All right, so I'm going to add a new. I know that we need to pass some parameters in here, but HTTP SharePoint. Add an action. Okay, don't show that again. There we go. And yeah, we'll pass that one in. So we definitely do need the SharePoint root URL. And then here we'll use that. Okay. Now in this case, Elvis, do we do a post?
We do a post, yeah. A post.
It would probably help me out if I brought up the right one. Okay, so we got to create SharePoint sites and go down here. I think that might be at the bottom though. Let's start up at the top. All right, so we actually need quite a few parameters here, guys. So there's the root SharePoint site URL. We need the site title. There we go. We'll add another one. And the next one will be the site description. We need the new site URL. And then we've got the owner email. There's that guy in there. And I think those are the 5. Yeah. Okay. And we do have a post, so we're right about that. Now the URI, I've seen a lot of the URIs start with this _API. Should I keep that that beginning slash there?
Yeah, take all of it in red.
All right. Now we're cooking. Make sure we get all of our headers here. Now I'm going to do this all in one shot. I'm going to hit Control C. Looks like these two are the same, so I'll copy that once. And I'll also copy that. Okay, here are the headers. Windows V. There's the accept. Now, something else I've noticed is you could go in here and actually paste it in with JSON format. So if you have some JSON format that you're copying from the web, just realize that that's what that button does. I'm going to hit Windows V here, and that's what we want there. Windows V again. We have content type, and we'll paste it there. Okay. Now to see what that looks like as JSON, that's what it looks like. So if you want, I'll paste that there. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to switch back. And now we've got this body here. Enter request content in JSON. Now JSON, JSON, is JavaScript object notation. And it's a way of having human readable, friendly looking format of data for communicating with web services. But you'll notice that a lot of times in PowerApps, whenever you create literal record values with curly braces, looks very similar to JSON. I'm going to go back over to our PDF, and we've got this code. Now let's actually look at this code. Okay, so we're looking at, so this is the data that we're going to have coming back, or this looks like data that we're sending to it.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're going to use the stuff that we passed in from PowerApps will be in here. The title,
Yeah,
the URL,
definitely.
okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy exactly what you had here. There we go. Copy. And I'm going to paste it right there. Wow, look at that. How'd
That's
you
cool.
do that? How'd you do that, Elvis? I didn't even have to go in here and change anything.
Yeah, so what happens is that when you go over to the PDF, when you start with the @ symbol, it kind of reference the parameter.
I like
It
that.
recognizes it.
Yeah, when
It's
you
magic.
start with the @ yeah.
App Magic. Did you guys know that's what PowerApps was called before it was PowerApps? It was App Magic.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. When I use that tool, that open source tool to break open an MS app file and look at all the code, you'll see a bunch of App Magic stuff going on. I'm like, what's going on here? But yeah, this is cool stuff. All right. So we got all this stuff. We have that in there. And the next step is to insert a respawn to PowerApps. Okay. So we got all that stuff done. Now I'm going to hit save. I like to save early, save often. Okay. All right. New step. And we're going to say PowerApps. Respawn to PowerApps or flow. I think that's what. Now I want to scroll down. I want to see all this stuff here. We'll pick that one. And what does our trusty PDF say here? Add an output text response. Now, does it matter if the R is uppercase or lowercase?
We can leave it on lowercase.
Lowercase, okay. Do that, and then I'm going to change it once we're in there. Oops, there's response. And then down here, what we'll do, wow, the new site URL. Okay. Very nice. Very mindful, very demure. I don't know if you guys do TikTok. Okay, new site URL. Save. And is that it? Is it that simple? The entire flow overview. It looks like it. Well, that was it seemed like a very simple, straightforward flow to create. Oh, look at this. Create the UI. I like this, Elvis. You got all these steps in here. Oh, you actually show how to do it in PowerApps. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, the
So,
documentation is great.
yeah. I've seen some of yours too, Savage. Yours is pretty solid as well. I like it. Picasso. Making sure we're up to date with all the comments and everything.
Mhm.
All right. So we got this now. I'm gonna, I guess, back out, and I'm curious to see if this thing is still running or not. It's still running after 10 minutes. Oh my goodness. All right. So we're gonna add a flow, and I'm gonna do a refresh here. Now I love working with flows inside of Power Automate, not Power Apps, Power Automate, because you got a lot more options and stuff, as we've seen. But then what I've noticed here is it's like impossible to get this thing. Okay, so here's that one that we created. Okay, so it found that one, but this one is called PASP create site,
Science codes.
which I don't see it.
Yeah,
So
we
what
can do a refresh.
Yeah.
Not
Nope.
when we click on add flow, yeah, we can. Yeah, there's a refresh button there.
All right, let's try that again. Yeah, I don't see. Now these are the flows that I've created before. They work well and everything. I'm wanting to bring in our new ones.
Okay.
See, it's called this. I'm gonna go here. Site create. That's what it should be called. Search. Ew. Well, it's got different casing. Yeah, this is my old one. Now, would that cause a problem at all? Maybe I'll do I'll rename it. It's gonna allow me to rename it.
Yeah.
It's not allowing me. Okay. End. Nope. Why is everything so difficult? Oh, okay. I'm gonna do a save as. Oh, it's got all this copy stuff. I'm gonna say 2. Okay, of course I turned it off. I'm gonna turn this one off. So guys, I know these steps, whenever things aren't working right, it's sort of boring. It's not very interesting, but this is development life. Even with low code, no code tools, software development, you're always working with stuff that doesn't work. Hopefully by the time you get all the kinks straightened out, it always works right for the users. All right, so let me turn that on. And if it doesn't, it's a user error, right? And if they tell you that you've got a bug, you say, no, that's a feature. It's a free feature. I didn't charge you extra for that feature. Oh. All right, let's see if we get the V2. Nope. Okay. So what I typically do when I do this, I've got to back out, leave, and then back in. Yeah, you got a good point, Elvis, about bringing it up in a different. Say, I brought it up as like a pop-up. If I actually downloaded it, it'd probably be better. Something that I think might be helpful, because everybody that's attending this workshop may not be a part of that membership, and I'd like them to get at your PDFs. Let's go in here, if you don't mind, Elvis, and attach it. Like attach them down here perhaps, so people can get at them. That would be good. And then let me see if I can see these new flows here. Added flow. I'm going to hit refresh. And I'm looking for that V2 and I don't see it. Huh. SharePoint sites lists. And here I called it listing. You see how it's like it can't see it. It's like I put blinders on. Oh, I can't see it. It's right there, but no, I can't see it. It's in the same, and a lot of times you're like, why doesn't it see it? Well, the first thing you should look at, make sure you created your flows in the right environment. So you see it says Darren Neese Dev. Over here it says Darren Neese Dev. So I definitely am in the right environment. But for some reason, it just doesn't see it. And then the other thing that you can do that might help you out is you go over to the solution. It isn't normal that all three places you've got like weird errors and things going on here. Okay, so we got an existing cloud flow. Let's see if we can find it over here outside of Dataverse. And you see we've got these three. Okay. I'm going to try to add in all three. And when I've done this, when I open up the Canvas app again, oh, now I see it. So I don't see much chatter in the chats. Are you guys doing okay? You guys already familiar with doing Power Automate flows? Is anybody creating flows for the first time?
So anytime you don't create your Power Automate inside your solution, it's going to fall under outside database. So always fall under outside.
Yeah. Yeah, is anyone awake? We got quite a few people here in the workshop, and it looks like we got 15 in the live on YouTube. Hopefully nobody's fun. So I know Cody's not asleep. Doing good. I'm familiar with setting up a flow, but definitely do struggle with them from time to time. Yeah, I'm not quite as adept with flows as I am with Canvas apps, but slowly Elvis and Savages, they're getting me there. But yeah, what's going on here? Very frustrating. I'm curious to see if this thing is still running. When does it air out? At the 30-minute mark? It's still running 17 minutes. I've never seen that before. I guess there's the first time for everything.
Do you think we should go over the last flow we built to see the error message or so?
Here within this one? Or which one?
The previous one that got failed.
Oh, the one that the setup that I've already created?
No, the first flow we created that got test failed, that didn't run. I had a timeout.
Yeah, so that one was, this one was 46 minutes ago. So maybe go into that.
Yeah, we can just click on the link, not the edits. We can just press the back button. Yeah, we'll scroll down. Yeah, let's open one of these.
Right. Gateway timeout.
I guess it has something to do with your account or something, but
Interesting.
Anyways.
So something that we could do is we could move on to our PowerApps side of things, because we definitely do have, these documents out there that you guys can get at here. Did you have a chance to upload them here, or in the process of doing that?
Yeah, it's uploading.
Yeah, okay. So you guys can download them here in the next few minutes. I really wanted to, create them from scratch, but in the interest of time, I think we're going to have to use the ones that I already have here. Jen says, not sure as far as test goes, but flows can run for days depending upon what the specs are. That's crazy. That's wild. When I was at a large corporation, we hired a bunch of consultants from a big international consulting firm to come in and replace an access solution. And there was a lot of stuff that was involved, and it ran a report. And inside of Microsoft Access that was written like 20 years ago or maybe 15 years ago, the report took like maybe a minute to run. And they did it in Dataverse and model driven, and they created Power BI reports. It took 6 hours to do the same thing. So I'm hoping that eventually the new technology will be just as good as the older and as reliable and performant as the old technology that we've been used to from years past. But yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to use the flows that I already have set up. And I've set up my flows exactly the same way that Elvis has documented in those PDFs. So he's uploading those now. And let me get you guys the URL to this so you guys can get at it once he uploads all those. And it does look like we have one person on YouTube that is awake. Kobina, thanks for letting me know. All right, so I'm gonna go over here. Okay, now this is all loaded up. I'm gonna go in, add the flows. So the first thing we wanted to do was we wanted a site listing, but that, wow, look at that, they're in there now.
Yeah, I guess it takes some time to patch.
Okay, it finally added in there. And because I added them in the solution, they're already, well, it can see it, right? Okay, so let's use the ones that we have, I guess. I wonder if I call them, hopefully it doesn't take 30 minutes to run. So we have
the one with the two nomenclature, create two, the last one.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, the second to the last. No, the second to the last.
For creating, right? But the first one we did was, what's that?
I think the one with the two at the back. I think that was the one we named.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm going to add that one, but I wanted to get the one that listed the sites because that was like the first step, right? Before we create a SharePoint list, we want to get a listing of them all. Okay, it brought it up. Okay, so we'll add the other one here in a moment. I just want to, let me go to blank screen. Okay, so here in the Jumpstart Kit, I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to go to this one and I'm going to say list SharePoint sites screen. Okay, there we go. I'm going to click over there to blank screen and bring this one back up. Okay, so we probably want a gallery here. I'm going to go to another screen. Like this new screen has got a nice little gallery. And I'll paste it here. Okay. And I guess whenever the screen loads up, on the screen on visible, looks like we already have some code here. Okay. And this is actually a feature of my Jumpstart Kit in that I track everything that the user does in my apps. So every time a user hits a screen, I've got a collection that you can create into a database if you actually want to save the data with all this information. So that's what that's about. And what I want to do is call the flow here. So we've got PA underscore or PowerApps underscore. Okay, there's the list run. And what we need to do is pass it the root site here. Now I'm going to show you one of my secrets here, guys. I'm going to go bring open my GitHub repository. And my repository is called PowerFX Snippets. And my phone is blowing up. I'm going to need to turn Do Not Disturb on. Here we go. That over there. There is, okay, if I go into app formulas, I've got some YAML here. Yeah, FX root SharePoint URL YAML. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I have it in a label. Now you can put it in app formulas. But here on this screen, I'm going to right click and say paste code. And I do have a label here. And now I've got some errors. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, this makes sense. So in order to dynamically find out, and it's not hard-coded in my app, if I want to know what the root site is, I need it uses Office 365 users. So I'm going to go over here in data and let's add that connector. I'm not interested. So the tables, those are Dataverse tables. I'm going to go down to connectors. Oh, look, there's a custom connector called My Dad Jokes. I should probably use that. I shouldn't let myself get distracted here. All right, so Office 365 users. Okay, let me add that. It is needed for this thing to work. There we go. Look at that, guys. It dynamically figures out. Now, if you guys are interested in my repository in this code snippet, I'm going to paste it there and also up there in the YouTube chat. So you guys have that. Okay. Now we don't have to show this to the user. In fact, I'm going to go down here to the visible property. And in the Jumpstart kit, I've got a global variable called GBL, show debugging. So the user's never going to see it. But if you're a debug user, you can click on this little thing and you can see things. I'm going to click on that label and it says LBL root SharePoint URL. Okay, that's great. And I don't need to see that again. And then in the screen on visible, what we're going to do here I am going to reference that label.text. And there we go. It's just going to go call it. But we probably need to capture what it returns. So let's do that with a variable. And we're not going to use a global unless there's a big reason why we need to. So in order to create a local, we'll say update context, open parenthesis, curly brace, and we'll create a variable called LOC SharePoint sites. Okay, and we're going to grab the return value from that float. I'm going to take that semicolon out and put the curly brace and also the ending parenthesis. Now, does that look right to you guys? Do you think it will work? Hopefully it doesn't take a 30-minute to come back. And let's see what comes back from there. I'm going to add in a label. And in this label, I'm going to give it a border. And I'm also going to give it a weird background color because we're not going to keep it on here. And let's make it a scroll, and we'll actually display that local variable there. Okay. And then what we need to do is we need to go to a different screen and then come back to fire that screen on visible. And it came back with false. I'm just glad it didn't go off for 30 minutes. So that's weird, huh? Let's see if it actually called it. I go to the screen, advanced, click on visible. I don't see any errors or anything. So it ran that SharePoint list. Let's go over here. And it's probably that one, right?
Yeah.
It's running.
Let's open it to see.
Open it?
Yeah.
All right.
We don't have the flow fully configured.
Really? Should I edit?
I guess this was the one that was having an issue to, that was having the timeout issue, and probably it's from your account or so.
Yeah. How do I refresh my credentials? Is there an easy way of doing that?
Savage, any ideas?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to see. Let's go in here and I'm going to add in one of the ones that has worked for me in the past, and it's set up exactly how Elvis lays it out. So I'm looking for sites get. That's what I called it, sites get. All right. And then over here, what I'm going to do is say PA underscore. Yeah, do that. We don't need another run. But that should be exactly it. And I don't think I think it's just one parameter there. And I'm going to save this, click to a different screen, come back. I got champagne bubbles there. And now we have a record. So I think what we need to do is hit response, right? And look at that.
Wow.
Beautiful. There we go, guys. Are you excited? Now, tell me what I need to do here. So this is JSON, right?
Yeah.
Should I use like a parse JSON function within
Yes,
my
you should.
onVisible? And so I guess I could say dot response here. And then do you recommend it's
yeah, we should do that outside the update context variable.
okay. And should we have another variable that will hold the result of that?
Yeah, we can put that in the collection.
Okay. So we'll do a clear collect. And I'll call that collection SharePoint sites. And then, all right, now this is getting fun. We actually get to write some code. Okay, so we have LOC SharePoint sites, and I need to wrap a function around that, right? The JSON, is it parse JSON? Yeah, parse JSON.
Yes, it's parse JSON.
And then we've got our variable there. Are there, let's go see what your, we have, oh, cool. Which one is, that's list SharePoint fields. This one is lists. This one is SharePoint sites. Okay. And I think you got the instructions at the bottom. Okay, look at this. Nice. There you go. Okay, so we have a for all. That's what we need to do. But okay, you did a parse JSON here.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a clear collect. Okay, so let's go do that. So we've got parse JSON. And I'll indent that over. Okay, we got the response right there. All right, and then we have this. Now we don't need the parse JSON again, but we do need a for all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go over here, and I think it's all this right. Well, come on. There we go. Copy. And I'm going to do that. And I'll cut that, put it in there. Okay. So you did a table function around the local. Okay. And I'm going to take out that vertical spacing. And I like what you did here. So you've named off all the columns that are coming back that are contained from within that JSON. Of course, I got to turn my video off and back on because it froze up. There we go. And I like this. And then you typecast it, or you change the type to make sure everything's text. Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Of course, I gotta indent over one more because this one's really long. You don't have to indent it like I do, but I'm always weird about my code looking pretty. I might be the only person that does that. Okay, so we got clear, collect, blah, 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 and we go through a loop. We're defining it with all these types, and we're going to be putting that in that collection. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to a different screen and then come back. Something I should probably do, I need to make sure the menu, whenever you add new controls to a screen, it always goes on top of your spinner and things like your menu and everything. I'm going to bring the menu to the top, and then I'm going to go get the spinner. There's the spinner. Bring that all the way to the front. All right. Now, in this gallery, probably just use our collection, I would imagine. And look at that. There's our data. I like it. Look at all those SharePoint sites, guys. All right. So we have all those. Let me go to the first error, and we'll say, I don't know, title. Yeah. And maybe that's all we need in this gallery. And we don't need that label anymore. Okay, guys, so there's a listing of all of our SharePoint sites, and we can make this label bigger. Now, something that probably everybody would want to see, and at least the users will request, like, why isn't that sorted? And that's exactly how they sound. Why doesn't that work? Okay, we'll sort that based on maybe title, and we'll format that text. Yeah. Okay, Michelle, you have a nice weekend. Okay, so here we save, we run. Here's all of our sites. This is great. All right, so let's go pull in. So we use this one. I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. Add a new flow, and now I want to create it. Now here's a question. Should we use one of these? Now one of them I think is on and one is off. No, both of them are there. I guess I'll use this one, the site listing. No, wait. No, we don't need a list. We need to create. Okay. So we'll do that create too. There we go. Let's add a button here. And I don't want to add it from the menu, because if you use the Jumpstart kit, there's a screen here called Copy Controls or Copy Classic Controls. And just pick whichever one that you like. If I were to add one from the pull-down menu, it would probably clash with our styling. And we'll paste that button here. And I'll put it at the bottom there. And we're going to call this create site. All right. And let's actually name the button. Button create site. All right. Now inside this button, what we're going to do, see there we turn our spinner on, then off, and in between, we're going to say, let's click on the flows there, and we've got PA create to dot run, and let's say update context, LOC created site. Ooh. And I think we've got quite a few parameters to pass in here. Now, whenever I try to bring up parameters, you notice when I clicked in here, I'm like, okay, what do I type? My trick is you hit a comma and you make the code editor, and this goes for any code editor. It's my way of tricking is like, okay, what's the next parameter I need to put in here? And it's giving me the parameters. But look at that, text 1, text 2. That's a little ugly. Now, did we do something here to make it do that? I find that a little odd. I'd love to see the parameter names that we're passing in. Yeah, we named them. I wish it would have grabbed that, but okay. So the first one is the root site URL, which we can easily get because we got the LBL root SharePoint URL dot text. We'll hit a comma. All right, let's go see what the next thing is. Site title. Okay, well, we probably want to have a text input allowing the user to do this for us, typing it in. I don't want to bring it from the menu though. I got to remind myself to go to this screen, copy it from there. And I'll paste that. No, I didn't bring over a text input. There we go. There we go. Now, if you're going to create what essentially is a user input screen, you might want to bring over a container just to make it look a lot better. I love the fact that they gave us drop shadows in these containers. So let's bring that over. And let's pick a very light gray color. I don't want to type in a literal value. Let's go over to app formulas. And let's see if I've got something in here. Got a lot of theming stuff. Okay. Up here at the top, I'm just going to add a new one. I'm going to call this FX light gray. Color value. And inside of this, I like F5s all the way across. Got the same value all the way across on the RGB. You know you're working with a gray color. And then for this container in the color, I'm going to paste that FX light gray. And I'm going to go down here to drop shadow. And I like the regular. It's a little subtle and a little nice. Very demure. All right, I'll paste that in there. Now, sometimes I do like to see a border on my containers. My wife tells me, no, don't put borders on everything. I don't know. I think it looks nice, but add them to yours if you want. I'm just gonna make sure that this is in here. We have a place to have all of our input controls. Now, what I do in my Jumpstart kit is I have these little squares that are guides. So things sort of snap into place the way that I like them. So this is going to be the new SharePoint site name. And let's make that as wide as that text entry. Okay. And I'm going to take the default out. I will put some hint text in here. SharePoint group. Site name. And for the width of both of these, I'm going to reference the parent, which is the container, its width, and I'm going to subtract self.x multiplied by 2. Now that's going to give me a little bit of gutter, a little bit of padding there on the side. So we've got that. Now I'm going to name this text input, give it a meaningful name, txt, new SharePoint site name. Get that, and down here in this button, I'm going to use it. Right there, say .text. Very good. Now we're ready for the third parameter. Now we got a site description. Right. I'm going to select these. I'm going to hit Control-C, Control-V. And how I do vertical spacing between fields, okay, is I put them right up against them like that. Then I use the down arrow key on my keyboard. Okay, and here we'll say new SharePoint site. Instead of name, we'll say description. And let's set up this text box. Give it a good name here. I guess we lost Elvis, huh? I hope he's okay.
I think we lost him.
What's that? You think what?
I think we lost him.
Yeah. I see a Teams message that says Zoom just crashed unexpectedly. Maybe he's gonna reboot and come back. Okay, so description here we'll say description. All right. Now let's make this one a little bit taller. Now what you notice about text entries, what you need to do is make them multi-line if they need to be multi-line. There we go. That looks nice. Now if you notice, the padding looks a little off. So sometimes like in the top here, I'll say 10. Looks a little better. All right, so we'll use that description there. Now, I'm a big proponent of not using edit form controls within PowerApps. Can you imagine if you only and always use edit forms, and then you have to create an input screen like this, and it's not attached to a data source? These are parameters that we got to, pass into a flow. So it goes to show you that, if you're used to doing individual controls like this, it sort of helps you in some situations. So there's the description, and I'm gonna hit comma, space, enter, and let's go see what the next one is. Okay, so the new site URL. Take this right here, copy and paste, and we'll use the down arrow there. And this is the new SharePoint site URL. And I think what we should do here, I don't think I want any hint text in there because I'm actually going to give it a value, which is this guy, as the default text. I'm going to paste that in there, .text. And then it already has a /. I think what I'd like to do, okay. It looks like Elvis is having a hard time getting back in. There he is. Okay, cool. I thought we lost you forever, Elvis. Did it finally, like I saw the screenshot. Was there a button or something there? How did you overcome?
I had to go over to the email to.
Okay, cool. Very good. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do here for the new URL is I'm going to use this text entry up here as the default .text. But if there are any spaces in the name, we don't want any spaces in our URL, right? So what we could do is say, substitute, and then we'll look for any spaces and replace them there. Okay, so I'm gonna try that out here. Darren's new site. There we go. It seems to be working right. Now I wonder if we should put a / on the end. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see what happens if we don't. So this is going to be new site URL. Paste that there, .text. I think it doesn't like that we haven't provided the fourth one here. And the fourth one is the owner email. Okay, well, what we could do another one of these. And you know what I like to do on screens like this is I like all these input controls to take up, any blank spaces within an input form. And what I'd want to do is move this down here. And let me move this up. Okay, down arrow. So guys, I'm curious, do you guys have any questions? We're sitting here at 4:10 and we'll probably be wrapping up within the hour. And this is a workshop, so is everybody following along? Do you guys have any questions? Elvis graciously provided us all the documentation for creating all those flows. So you could always go through and create that. And if you're a viewer of my channel, you probably know how to add all these controls and how to have a button there and how to call a flow like this. Nick says it's good. All right, so Nick's enjoying this, and I would consider Nick to be in the advanced area. And I know Nick has career in software development as well. So glad to see that hear that you're enjoying it, Nick. Right, let's. You're up here, use this. Okay, so this is going to be the owner email. Okay, so Wayne says the term app.formulas is new to me. Can you explain where these go in the app? Yes. So app formulas is something they gave to us relatively recently. It wasn't like last week or anything, but I think it's been out there for a few months, maybe a year. What would you guys say? How long has it been out there? But if you click on app, they added a new property here called formulas. And what Microsoft wants us to do is to put things that maybe we're used to putting in app.onstart, putting them into formulas. Now I have a whole workshop where let me get out of here and show you guys. Actually, I think we've got more than one workshop, but this workshop here is called moving from app onstart to formulas. And I think this is the first version. I'm gonna move that up there. So we step through that. So moving stuff from onstart to formulas. And one of the things to realize is that you can't have imperative code within app formulas. So it's a great place to put any constants. If you're familiar with the word constants. Now constants are a little bit like variables, but they don't change. So if you go over here to app formulas, notice I've typed this and this is never going to change. Now I could have something in here that has a variable that might change. Let me see if I've got some examples. Yeah, so I've got some global variables here. So here's all my themes, you know. So this is a place. So if you want to know more about that, I've got videos on YouTube. I've got the workshops that go over it, and they're called named formulas. Sometimes they're called named expressions. And there's something else that you can put in here called user-defined functions. Okay, so if we go over here into settings, and go into updates, and let's say named, okay. I guess that's the named expressions or the named formulas are already added in there by default. But if you want the user-defined functions, so you could have functions defined within app formulas that allow you to pass in parameters. So that's nice. But again, it's only declarative type of code. If you want imperative type of code, which is typically like, oh, app formulas, now I can, you know, put stuff like a callable function or a routine. And if you're wanting imperative, if you want to put some imperative code in there, what you need to do is create a component, because the app formulas is still quite limited in some regards. So very good. Thanks for asking that, Wayne. Marek, hopefully I pronounced that right, or Marek. Why create SP site with PA is better than standard? Why create SP site with PA? I'm not sure if I understand your question. So are you just asking like why I named it that way? What I don't like, I like to, with Power Automate flows, it just seems like a lot of them get really long names. And, you know, if you're working with other developers within the environment, you're going to see all kinds of flows all over the place. Well, these should be only yours, but if you go over to shared with me, you know, if you're working on applications with other developers, you might see a lot of them here. And the names are really long and they've got dashes and angle brackets and stuff. So you can name them however you think looks best. Do you guys know, is there any recommended best practice on the naming of flows? Have you guys ever seen that anywhere? I know there's best practices with PowerApps, but maybe there is a document out there for.
Just make it short and simple.
Just make sure it's what? Simple?
Yeah, just make it short and simple.
Oh, short and simple. Yeah. And so that's what I was going for. And this is a naming convention that I became familiar with when creating views within SQL Server. And I just wanted a shorthand note to say, okay, so this is the trigger. This is mainly what it's working with SharePoint. So that's why I named it that way. And I see Nick says KISS, which is an acronym. Keep it simple, Sam. And I like the fact that you use Sam instead of the other that's used. Yeah, I love these little acronyms that programmers use, like DRY, don't repeat yourself, and KISS. Yeah. Okay, so this is the owner email. Now this is going to be easy. For the default, what we'll do is we'll use that user function. And look at this, we've got the email right there. And then for the description, what I was saying before, I'm going to bring this up, use my down arrow. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little guiding squares that I have. And I'll move this down here. Put it down. So there we go. Darren's new site. There's Darren's new site. There's my email. And I'm hoping that description really is optional. I would imagine it would be. All right. Now it doesn't like my run. Now I need to provide that other parameter. And the last one is txt new SharePoint. Did I actually name it properly? I did not. Owner email. I mean, when you create SharePoint site with Power Automate, is it better or faster to use a Power Automate flow? I think it's faster. And Marek, I don't know if you were here at the very beginning, but I did a demonstration. If you go over to SharePoint and there's like all these steps and clicks and different screens popping up, and I found it's very fast. So that's why I really like it. And you could build an interface for your SharePoint administrator. They might really like you doing something like this for them, Do you know that, especially in large organizations, IT gets requests for new SharePoint site creations. They'll get tickets that come in, and there's a SharePoint administrator that's like, okay, here's a new ticket. Okay, they want a site. Are they approved? Who's the owner and all this type of stuff. What you could do is have a PowerApps application that they go to request a new SharePoint site, and they could provide all this information. And then all you got to do is, shoot off an email to a manager, their manager, or somebody that has the authority to approve or deny. And they either approve it, and then once they click approve and save, your PowerApps just goes off and creates the site. Wouldn't that be cool? And then emails the person that requests it. I think that's so cool. All right. Like we still have an error here. Yeah, new. There's the email.text. Okay. And we got that. So maybe what we need to do right after that is launch. Perhaps they want to see it. LOC created site dot response. And I believe how we set that up, Elvis, is to actually return the URL, right? So that's going to work out well for us. Yeah. And I'm going to remove all this vertical spacing. We don't really need that. I'm going to save. I'm going to run. And I'm going to click this. Ooh. It didn't gray out for very long, which means we have an error. Let's go into this. Function run has an invalid value for parameter text2. A blank value was passed where it was not expected. Please make sure that, okay. So perhaps what we need maybe it's not an optional. Yeah. In here on the default, we will say let's see if that was it. There we go. Looks like it's going to work. Now we did do a launch. Okay, we have an error. Ooh, 502. Bad gateway. Man, my stuff is all messed up. Let me see. Mark, are you following along? Are you getting the same errors that I am? So what we did last time is we didn't use these new ones. So something in my environment might be messed up. Maybe my credentials. I don't know what the deal is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my other flow that I have in here that I know has worked. So we've got site create. So I'm going to use that one. I'm hoping the parameters are exactly the same. So I'm going to say PA, site create run. Okay. Mark says, I stopped and just been watching. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I know Mark is a part of our Monday night group where we've been doing all this. So he's already probably has all this done, I would imagine. Something I always want to do whenever you add new controls. Reorder, bring to front, go over to the tree view. Now I'm going to go find the spinner group and bring this to the front. Okay, let's try it out. That looks good so far. Oh, not found. Now that was our launch. superpowerlabs.sharepoint.com, Darren's new site. Now, do I need a / at the end? Okay, let's go back here. I don't see any errors here. And what I could do, let's go look at site create. And I'm going to click on this and see the last run. Succeeded. And it only took 3 seconds. So what is going on here? Darren's new site. That's not what I wanted. Am I in the right? Oh, Darren's manual site. So something doesn't seem right. Got all kinds of stuff here. I'm wondering I'm going to bring this one up onto my other screen. Very good. I want to go here and maybe the parameters being passed in they're in a different order. And Nick says refresh cache. Yeah, I might need to do that. Let's see here. Edit. Let's see the order in which we had them. Root, there's the site title, site description, new URL, and the owner email. It's exactly how I had it set up between the two. Okay. And there's no errors. So what gives? Let's see here. There's the root site. Yeah, there's Darren's new site. You know what I could do I have an app right here where I can go to my SharePoint site and I do a search for Darren's new site. Darren's new site. Well, I'm gonna try something else here. I'm gonna say Elvis's new site. And actually, I don't know if that's your account in there. I'm just gonna say Darren here. Create site. Cross your fingers. You're superstitious. See, something's not right. Refresh. Nothing. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. That's what I tell myself. So here in this site, I'm going to go to a different screen and then come back. And let's go search for an Elvis. Elvis has left the building. Okay, now I'm going to try it here. Great site. Works fine, and it's using the same flows. Now, Nick, when you say refresh cache, are we talking about like the browser cache? I get a little weird about like dumping all my cookies and stuff, then you got to log back in and all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Darren, I think we need to look at your credential after this workshop.
We need to look at what?
Your credential, it's acting well.
Yeah.
So this one right here, this flow, they're all succeeding. Let's do 1 minute ago. And I can click on this. Yeah, look at that. Elvis new site. I'm going to copy that. It's status of 200, which is good, right? Yeah, I'm doing something wrong somehow. You know what I could do is bring up an incognito window. That would get rid of any cache problems, I would hope. Yeah, let's see here. Darren at sign in. I'll probably have to do an authenticator. Yeah. Let's see here. You have to take it off do not disturb mode in order for this to work. I'm just having a rough time. My authenticator isn't Let me see if I can get a code texted to me here. All right, there we go. Okay. Okay. And I'll probably need to exit out of everything else. Here's SharePoint. Look at that. Now I created it with the other one. So Elvis new site. Now, yeah, you must be right, Nick, because look at this URL. Oh, it says sites. Nick says we all love Microsoft. Okay, so look at that. Sites. That's what I'm not doing here. Okay, you guys see that? So here I should have said sites. But we don't need one at the beginning there. Okay. 2. Create site. Crush fingers. Okay, look at that. It works. And my video camera is freezing up. I can't imagine. Guys, I've had so many crazy stuff happen this week. I'm not surprised by anything. Look at that. We got it to work. All right. So here's an option, guys. For those of you who join me in this workshop, either in Zoom and on YouTube, would you like me to continue this tomorrow? Because we're pretty much out of time here. And I'll stick on if you guys have any questions about what we've done so far. But if you follow the PDFs that Elvis has out here, I will tell you the 2 most difficult ones are the ones where we list things off and it returns JSON, because there's just some extra steps. Otherwise, a lot of these are, you just do the 2 or 3 steps and it just does it, So I would encourage you each to go through and make sure you create all of these flows. Hopefully you don't have as many problems as I did. And then the rest of it is a matter of calling, having controls to allow the user input the information, and then have a button that runs the flow. And yeah, Nick says, well done. Thank you, Nick. Mark says, prefer the new template way of creating the SharePoint list. Yeah. Yeah. And the new SharePoint, the new template, the new template way of creating the SharePoint list. So yeah, I do like what we're doing on Monday nights. So we have all of these features are pretty much done. And I'm going to stick around a little bit longer just to make sure anybody doesn't have any questions. And I'd love to hear your guys' input on the live stream for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow is the last day to get the early birds special. So I've got a 5-day boot camp course, 5 days. We're talking 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, whole 5-day course. And you're going to learn all kinds of really cool stuff. And the normal price is like $14.95, $14.97, something like that. But if you order if you order or you enroll before the end of tomorrow, you'll just get it for like $4.95, something like that. So it's like $1,000 off. So if you guys are interested, now's the time to enroll. It won't be that cheap the next time around. If you can't make it, realize that you'll get the recordings and you'll get the opportunity to attend live the next time it comes up. No extra charge. Yeah, I don't see any additional questions. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the workshop. If you guys have any feedback, please let me know. I'm always up for constructive criticism. Anything like the music hopefully the music wasn't distracting. Hopefully it was at the right level. If there's anything that I could have done differently in the workshop to make this a better learning session, let me know. I'm always looking for better ways of serving you guys. And Wayne says, great session. Thank you, Darren. Yeah, thanks for engaging and being a part of this. You guys have a great weekend. Hopefully I'll see you guys all tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. EST in the live stream.